Welcome back to the GLVC Sports Network halftime show. I'm sitting down with golf head coach Brent Nicoson. He coaches both the women and the men here at University of Indianapolis. Your women did phenomenal this past weekend in the Butler Invitational. What did you tell them going into that?
Well, we didn't tell them anything any different than we normally do. We just go in and try to play it as solid as we can and let the results, take care of themselves. Right now, we're still kind of feeling out where we are for the season, who's in the top 5, who's not. We have 8 really good players, and it's very competitive within the team. So, the Butler Invitational was great for recruiting to win a Division I tournament. That helps us. And we had some really good individual performances. In Paxton DeHaven won, freshman Emma Kiefer got second, and tied a sophomore in Katerina Kylik. So it was a good overall tournament for us for sure.
And none of those women that you just mentioned are seniors. So how good is that for recruiting?
Well, it's good. I mean, obviously the depth on the team creates internal competition as well. Sometimes that works negatively, not with this group. They all support each other. But for the recruiting purposes, this is a really good group. We don't have any seniors, so moving forward for the next couple of years, we should be pretty solid.
You've had 2 GLVC Player of the Week so far just in this season alone. How do you coach standouts like that?
No different than we have every other year. These guys are all self-motivated, all the girls. Very happy for freshmen from Guatemala, Pilar Echeverria, who was the GLVC Player of the Week the second week. Katie was the first week, and I expect, for the season, I hope we have them every week. That's what a coach hopes for. Obviously, that's probably unrealistic. There's several good players in our conference, but the internal competition has kind of helped elevate their play for sure.
Speaking of your men's and women's team, you have foreign players on both. When they come over here, you've said a lot of times it's their first trip to the U.S. How do you get them adjusted quickly?
That's kind of up to them, honestly. We do the best we can in getting them acclimated to everything. I think the most important thing is the food, to be honest with you. That's what they've said. Cold weather has something to do with it. Pilar, being from Guatemala, is not used to the cold weather, but they've done a great job. They've both been in American schools, so they speak very good English, and the camaraderie on the team is very good. So the girls just kind of take over themselves. They lead them in the right direction, take them shopping, show them around the city and things like that. We've had no issues at all with that.
Since you coach both the men's and the women's, how often do you practice together? Is it a brother-sister type relationship? What's that camaraderie like?
We try to keep it separate. That usually doesn't work when we mix the men and women's teams. They start talking a little bit too much and mingling and things like that. So we try to keep it as separate and as staggered as we possibly can. It'll get a little bit more difficult in the spring when we have more days to work with, but right now, since we're limited on the days for NCAA purposes, we try to stagger it every other day.
What are some players that we need to look for on your men's team?
Well, Graham Macri's our leader, no doubt. First team All-American last year, but we're very deep on the men's side too. We've already had some qualifiers to see who gets to play. We've had 2 freshmen in the lineup, and Eric Edwards and Spencer Klimek, and Evan Stoker's playing well, and Jackson Wright has emerged into the top 5 as well. But usually when we talk about the men, we're talking about Graham Macri. He's our leader, and until something changes that's probably who we're going to talk most about.
When you looked at last season and watched the film and assessed each match individually, what were the things that you know that you needed to work on specifically?
Well, on the men's side, we need consistency. We were able to go low and win tournaments, but on the flip side of that, we weren't as consistent as we needed to be. So that's kind of been the focus, talking to them, is consistency. And on the women's side, kind of the same thing. We made it to the national championship again, and we're runners-up. But last year was a little bit different. We were dealing with an injury, and everybody did their job as stepping up. We just came a little bit short. But I would say consistency on both sides. Both teams can go really low when we're playing well. It's what we do on bad days that will kind of dictate how the season goes.
All right, well, thank you, Coach Nicoson. We certainly appreciate it. You are watching the halftime show. Coming up next, I caught up with wrestling coach Jason Warthen. Stay tuned.